Dum da dum dum. Dum da dum 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 da dum 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 da dum dum dum. Yeah. Live on Twitch. Basically Twitch famous. 0 followers. YouTube famous. My upload is so good on Fiber. It's like just as fast as my download. Can you believe it? I've been messing with this setup a little bit. My camera was froze earlier. I couldn't tell you why exactly. I hope that doesn't happen again. I also have this. This is actually nice. This little Elgato thing. But I put my Mark IV on a stand back there. I can't switch to it right now, but I'm gonna try it later because I think it's cool. So that's where we're at on that. It'd be nice if one person popped in so I know to start saying things that matter. Checkity check, check, checkity check. Should I show my screen? Don't need that. I think this is cool though. Now I can go. Now we're looking at that stuff. Current application is that, but I could be like, let's look at Figma for a minute or something, which is kind of fun. Or I could go half cam. Boom, there's me. Full cam. Boom. Ooh, did you see that animation? Did it animate? I think it animated. That's amazing. But we're here for this, so I'm going to minimize stuff and just start working on this. I do need to bring my little comment section open though, because I like that. All right, so there's the plan. Feel free to comment if I'm covering up anything important. I just want to put that portfolio page we've been working on to bed. We left off in a fine spot pretty much. I might like mess with the typography a little bit, but we found this like real basic footer on Dribbble. I think that's a perfectly nice looking footer, this top part. And then it has this like weirdly enormous text at the bottom of it. Why not? Designers do weird crap. That's fun. We could do that. Let's do that. But I was like, let's do fit to width, because can't you imagine looking at this thing and being like, well, we should, if the browser window resizes, it's not like we want this to reflow. We probably want it to be pretty edge to edge, filling up the entire area. And there's a bunch of different ways to do it. There's JavaScript ways and there's other ways. We could probably do some magic numbers and getting it working with Clamp. Let's try that first. And then we're going to look at the ways that Roman Komarov blogged and just see if there's any possible way on earth that we could understand what's happening there's 2 blog posts by Roman that go into this, and they're both extremely weird. And I thought we'd look at the newer of the 2 ones. I'm not sure why. It was that I discovered a new technique that works in all major versions of browsers. It requires text duplication, but otherwise works very well. I think actually this older technique makes a little bit more sense to me. I may remember wrapping my mind around it at one time, but it requires scroll-driven animations, which are just dropping in Safari soon. Or isn't like Safari going to version 26 or something? That was the new news from Safari Land, that at least it'll work in Chrome and Safari then, but I don't think scroll-driven animations are in Firefox, right? Can I use scroll-driven animations? Can I use is like great, but sometimes doesn't have the latest stuff these days. So yeah, it'll have it in Safari. This is pretty up to date. Oh, and it's flagged in Firefox. That's cool. Maybe we should just use that one because it is a little easier. But we'll either use this one or we'll use the new one, and we'll attempt to figure out how the heck it works, because fair warning, this CSS is crazy. Again, so that's the look, and this is where we left off, and it says kapow at the very bottom down there. Looks like this is on minimal UI. Should we leave it as minimal UI for now? This is the CodePen's, our new 2.0 editor, of course, that we're looking at. Is there any styles for footer? There's footer text and there's site footer. Absolutely. And you know what? I think we left it out of the footer in the HTML. Oh my God, my mouse just died midstream. See that? I'm moving my mouse. It's not going. I need a little cable. Gotta find one. My box of cables. This thing's probably $100 cable. It's got that nice braiding on it, you know, like all cables should have, except for it makes them extremely expensive. Is that all it was? Yeah, it was. All right. Battery power, ridiculous. I wish they sold nuclear powered mice. All right, so footer, we put this outside of the closing footer here. Why did we do that? Actually, I'm going to pick up myself and move me over here so you can see everything. We did it for reasons, and I don't even care to revisit those reasons, but class of final is what we have to work with. So dot final is cool. If we went font size, I don't know, 100 pixels, it's going to be very big and we'll be able to see it much clearly. And remember, the reason we're scrolled down to the bottom of the page is because we wrote a little JavaScript to just run that as soon as this is refreshed. So we're going to have to remember to remove that. I'm going to say to do, remember to remove pulls, save. All right, fun. So that's that. Could we find the perfect pixel size to do this? Sure, but pixels don't really resize. So we want resizability, which viewport units could do the job. Usually not recommended that you just use them, but it's such a weird circumstance. It's not really body copy text. I'd be a little less concerned about what? About like its readability and stuff. It's mostly just a decoration. So 50 container, viewport units based on the width for sure. Oops, did I comment out the line that made that actually work? Just was trying to do it to do. All right, that's a little too big, so we'll magic number it a little bit, 45. It's gonna be less, 38. 35. It's getting there. It's triggering a horizontal scroll bar. Oh, it's not anymore, but now look. It's behaving as I would kind of imagine it would behave. Actually, let's do a little padding too, right? Usually when you use viewport units and font size, the recommendation is that you factor in, you do like a little calc and you factor in some rems to it. I'd be hesitant to do that here only because it's like, what if this, a user has it a little bit bigger or something, then it will cause the horizontal scrolling that we don't want. So I was basically talked myself out of it. Like, this is basically a decorative element down here and it doesn't matter that much, but that'd be fun. Oh, look at this portfolio. Oh, look at their cool work. Kapow! Or whatever, an A with a little circle on it that I ignorantly don't even know the name of it. Is called. So we could do that. That's pretty close to workable already. But the point of this stream, hopefully, is to do something even fancier with it. Use one of these fit to width techniques. So what does fit to width means? It means you can set some type like this that hugs the left and hugs the right, which we want to, but it could be any amount of text and it will scale perfectly. Really appealing. My friend and co-host on Shop Talk Show, fit text. Will it still go to Dave's classic red page? See, this has that ability to fit text. Heck yeah. But it did it with jQuery, and I think there's probably a vanilla JavaScript port of it at one point. But, CSS is so powerful these days. We don't want to do that, do we? We want to do it with just CSS. So here's the scroll-driven animations way. Do we want to spend time on that? Or do we want to see if we can get the updated version from last year from Roman. Let's try to wrap our minds around this one. We'll both, one, try to wrap our minds around it, and two, just steal the code and see if we can implement it in the case of the footer. It will have some advantage. The advantage is if we want to change this text to something else, we don't have to revisit this magic number to make it fit. It will theoretically just fit. So I guess that would be the advantages to doing it that way. So let's see if we can understand what's happening here. Roman puts the HTML right up front. It says, oh, it's Dave. Dave, did you see I just showed one of your websites? Fit text. And we're not going to use it. I just was trying to show that, like, you could use JavaScript to do this. You could use it, but don't use it, because we're going to do it with CSS these days, even though the CSS technique, I would almost rather, so this CSS is so complicated to me that it's tempting, like a tiny bit tempting. I'd almost rather use JavaScript than this, but not there. It's just really on the like teeter totter of understandability. I almost prefer, but this is just for fun. We're just going to do this because we're trying to understand it. So let's just look at up and down through the code and just confuse ourselves thoroughly, and then attempt to understand it with the writing that Roman did. Okay, so it needs to be display flex, apparently, fine. It needs to have inline size containment, which just means it's a container now. I assume that it's because we're going to use container query units down here. Yes, that's that. So we're going to capture length, which is initial. I have no idea what that's going to do, but as far as this is concerned, I think that's just a string that says initial. I don't know if that it captures a particular value. Maybe it does. Then there's support sentinel. I don't know what to make of that naming. That is initial because that we just grabbed it, and then it falls back to that. Will it ever fall back to that? Like, isn't this a valid value? You'd think this would be irrelevant because it would never fall back to it. And then there's something aria hidden. Oh, aria hidden is here. So it makes it visibility hidden. But remember, visibility hidden, it still takes up space, like literal real estate. So that's interesting that it's using visibility hidden, even though it's removed from the old accessibility tree. And then anything else that's not hidden, which I guess would be this span, this text, or no, it's wrapped. There's an inner span and an outer span. So both of those two are FlexGrow 1. Always hard to understand in Flexbox, but I guess it's like allowing it to grow or whatever. It's also a container, interesting. And its captured length, I guess, is overriding this one with 100 container query units, and the I is in the inline direction, so width, essentially. The available space is that. So this becomes that. All right. Then we got to dig down into it. So if we say and star, what does and equal? And is whichever is one of these spans. And then the child of that span. So I think we're specifically talking about the inner one. I'd be tempted to label it instead of stuff like this so we'd know. But anyway, another support sentinel, I still have no idea what that does. Inherits. So one was initial, one was inherent. We're capturing length again and saying its captured length is 100 CQI. Again, I'm not sure why you'd need to do that. You'd think this one would be the same as this one because there's no padding or anything on these spans, is there? Or maybe he's just planning it. Maybe there could be. So then we need a ratio. I believe this tan thing is just trickery. It just means like remove the unit from available space. So maybe available space is captured length, which is 100 CQI. So I sort of think ratio it's a way to turn 100 CQI into 100, I think. Converts it to a ratio. So the ratio would be 100 over 1, I guess. But a ratio is like unitless, I would think. All right, so then we're clamping. The minimum is 1M, which is cool. I think we saw that above here. Like this text here is about as small as it gets. Hi, Emmett. Thanks for joining us. So a lot of this resizes, but that one doesn't. I think at some point it starts to wrap. That's a nice feature of this, I think. I think that's saying, don't get too tiny. Like retain readability. We want to go edge to edge, but like don't go too crazy. Hence the clamp, I guess. And then, oh, so ratio, as Dave was saying, tan A10 turns it into a ratio. So now we can multiply 1m by that ratio. Okay, I guess. And then what's the max font size? Oh, it's like if we want to set it, we can, but we're not actually setting. It's just giving us a hook to do it. And then the maximum otherwise is like there is no maximum. Infinity is just a thing you have in CSS. Apparently you need to multiply it by a unit. That's surprising to me. I'd think just infinity by itself would work, but maybe not with font size. It won't. Interesting. And then it subtracts the support sentinel, which I just can't even remember what it is. It's just this weird value that inherits or something. I do not understand that particular aspect of it, but you'd think it would matter quite a bit if it's subtracting here. I don't know. So then the inline size is available space, which we haven't set since up here. That's fine though, I guess. It's probably just 100 CQI. Okay, and then if it's not dot fixed text, what does that mean? So we're only working in a fit text world and not fit text. What does that mean? Text fit is the class. And then down here, it's like, if it's not text fit, what does that even mean? What is this selecting? I have no idea. Display block, set the font size. If the inline size is bigger than 0, then don't wrap it. I don't know what that's doing. I don't understand. And then another nested class of text fit, which is not present here. Do some stuff. So maybe this is like niche use cases or alternate use cases or something, or maybe it's just absolutely vital to this technique. I don't know. I can't tell by looking at it. I do know that this is likely to matter a whole bunch. Yeah, maybe you can nest them, Dave says. Perhaps. I don't know. But the reason I know this is because at the beginning of this article, it says, registered with the greatest R I've ever seen. Custom properties are now available in all modern browsers. So registered custom properties means at property in CSS. So using some pre-existing techniques based on them, complex container query length units, I solved a years-long problem, yada, yada, yada. Okay. So that's like, we just know from his writing that matters. But this is like the clutch part of registering a property is that you set the syntax. gonna have some sound. But that's my studio display microphone. That's not the right thing though. Got some mic quiet. Yeah, hold on. It's something's wrong. I think it's, my theory is it's the Elgato Wave XLR unit. Oh, come on. So I go to my system settings, which is now frozen. Like, how is that even real? Test. Test, a test, a test, a test. There's the mic. There's the volume. Is there any... Yeah, that's getting... Does that sound good now? That should be my fancy mic. Maybe. It's giving me levels. Oh, no, it's not. Has that got levels? Check. Let's crank the levels on. Boom, 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 boom. Not quite. Levels it. I just need to like tell this app what. This is a weird problem. Is that a problem? I could use my phone. Hi, I'm a microphone. Is that normal? Did it lose the... This works. I have all this audio equipment and then I gotta speak into my stupid phone. Maybe. Yeah, like what could it be? There's software like Ecamm Live, there's the cable, there's the OS, there's this microphone, there's the cable between the microphone and the Wave XLR, there's the cable between the Wave XLR and the computer. It could just be all these different things. But I guess can't beat a phone. It's got to be a little bit further away from my face though. Is the level still okay on the face? Oh my god. That's obnoxious. Little thing to work on later, you know? Cable-y. Alright. I'm gonna take Dave's word for it and fix the cable situation. Alright. Where we left off was that we were trying to understand Roman's technique for fit text, which was absolutely fascinating, of course. But we didn't really get it. So let's just read the blog post together and see if we do get it. The idea behind this technique is similar. What if we could get the ratio of our available space to the width of our text and then apply it as a modifier to this text size? That makes sense to me. In my scroll-driven animations technique, I did apply it as a transform, but this time I can just change the font size. That also seems better to me for some reason. I can't describe exactly why, but I feel like transforming text is just not the same as like actually changing its size. I don't know. Uh-oh. Now we have echo problems. That would make sense because using your phone for a professional microphone is probably not a great idea. Okay. Well, I hate to bug people with that, so let's try dealing with audio again. Switch back to phone. Did it go to static for a minute? It probably did. What a useless piece of junk. Dum-da-dum. I don't have a lot of fallbacks. I don't have a lot of fallbacks. I can replace. I literally have a couple of these. I could switch out. I could switch out the cable. Yeah. I guess I'll just finish my thought and then I'll just start playing with microphones. It's really too bad though. I mean, even my video cuts out once in a while. It's like, dude, these are Thunderbolt cables to a Mac Studio. Like, what's wrong? What could possibly be wrong? Okay, anyway. All right, so we're learning about ratios. This is Roman telling us, all right, 20% of 100% is 5. I think is that right? I would think it'd be 1/5, not 5. If it was the other way around, it would be 5. So that's weird. But how do we get this ratio? Container query length units. We know what those are. So if this thing was a container, and it probably is in Roman's world here, 100 CQI means now we finally know the difference between the left and right edges of this box. Like that's a unit. 1 CQI is 1% of the width of this. Dum 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 dum. Well, that's a decent feature of the software is that it resumes the broadcast even if you quit the app, which is very surprising to me. Scenes, this thing. Oh, good. What's up, Emmett? I'm glad it's starting to work here. I think that it was Ecamm Live. This little piece of software that I use it literally froze. So I've never had that happen before. But so far so good. I also switched out the XLR unit for a different one. Hope maybe that's the problem. We'll see. All right. Well, I'm just going to keep talking to myself because I want to figure this out. So we have this ratio. We know what container query units are. We know we're using 100 of them a lot, which kind of makes sense because that's going to be the width of the container and not the entire browser window. So that's neat. So they know their stuff. Did I mention I want to measure the unknown inline size? Yes, it's known now if we have container units. And when we set up a container, we don't want to lose its value as the container will stop taking children into its account. As the container will stop taking children into account. Why? That's where the hacky part with the text duplication comes into play. And by text duplication, he means in this HTML, and this is a little unfortunate. It's not the end of the world, but you have to put the text here and you have to put the text here. So that like kind of sucks, if you ask me. I always try to avoid that. It's just error prone, a little extra DOM. It just feels a little sloppy, but hey, you got to do what you got to do when you're in super tricks land. All right. Where'd we leave off? Yes, if we set up our container over the text with an unknown inline size, we could measure it. What we can do is invert the logic. We can measure not the inline size of the element itself, but the remaining space that we have. Okay, so we're setting them next to each other. And if we could measure our top level containers width, we could subtract the remaining space from it. Okay, so we're going to measure the entire width of the container and then the remaining space as well. Interesting. Getting our unknown, and now known width as a result, because you're trying to measure that. So the way that you get the pink area is to get the entire container width, subtract the green area. Now that actually is pretty damn clever. Here's a pink dotted outline shows the area of our elements. Text content, the green dashed outline shows the remaining space, which we can make into a container. So I guess this needs to have container units too, so you know how wide it is. Wow, that's whack. All right. So that's what's going on here is that's flex and is a container. And the thing that's not hidden, the actual text, grows and it's also a container. When we have an element with an unknown width inside our container and then add another element alongside it, hence the display flex, I guess, With inline size containment in FlexGrow 1, it will grow to take the remaining space while being a container. It obeys the rules of containment. Its children do not have any effect. Nested containers and named storage units workaround. You could have noticed that I mentioned two containers. The top level one, which takes all the available space, and the inner one, which measures the width of our unknown text by proxy. So we want to get access to both as container query units. However, today we do not have this feature in CSS, right? So a CQI or whatever is only going to talk to its nearest parent. It's not going to like, you can't access it and the parent ones at the same time. So you have to kind of, oh, the audio died. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. Like, I'm not going to accept audio from you again. Yeah, I really don't know. I'm just going to have to abort for today. I just can't deal with this.